Hey there, I'm Ari from the Tech Buyers Guru, and I'm going to be doing a quick unboxing and assembly of the HobbyZone Aeroscout S 1.1 meter RC airplane. This is distributed by Horizon Hobby, and it's actually not a brand new design, but it is pretty new to Horizon Hobby and the HobbyZone brand. I think they licensed it from someone else and then added their Horizon Hobby's secret sauce, which is compatibility with Spectrum radios and the safe technology that Spectrum has developed. That means it has a gyroscopic stabilizer in it that really helps new flyers, which includes me. And it also allows you to pair it with a whole host of Spectrum branded radios. I have a DX6 here, which I'm going to pair it with. And a lot of flyers out there have one of the Spectrum branded radios in their fleet. So that's a great feature. Now, interestingly, this package, this box seems to be the same box they use for the ready-to-fly version, which includes a DXE radio, a battery, and a charger, because it actually down here refers to some smart technology, which is actually their smart charging technology. That's all well and good. To me, it's a little bit confusing because in the fine print it says only with the ready-to-fly version, and this is not the ready-to-fly version, so I don't know why it's on the box. But that's okay. I'm going to be using my own charge, my own battery, and my own radio. Everything else about the airplane is the same. The airplane itself is the same. So this actually retails for $150, and as you will soon see, that's a great value in terms of what you get in the box. So let me get this out of the way and show you how to assemble this plane. All right, here's the fuselage of the plane. This is what comes out of the box. I have to attach the wings, I have to attach the rear elevator, and the landing gear. I'm going to show you all of those, and what I'll start with is the landing gear. Now, the landing gear actually just fit right in here in a slot on the side of the fuselage, and they snap in. One of the things that makes this design so user-friendly is it really doesn't require any tools or gluing. So I'm just going to insert that here, and there'll be a snap when it attaches. It's in. To detach it, you actually insert a screwdriver in here, and that releases the latch, and you can pull it back out. Of course, I also have already attached the other landing gear, but I do need the front landing gear. Now, out of the box, you're going to need to unscrew this securing screw here. Luckily, HobbyZone includes a tiny little screwdriver, so I've already loosened that screw to make sure that I can insert the front landing gear. This is a really nice landing gear. Notice how big these wheels are, and they're kind of a soft foam. I really like that because that allows them to work on a variety of surfaces. They don't quite look scale, but they are going to work on a lot of surfaces that you might want to fly off of. Okay, so I'm going to screw this in, and of course it has to there's a flat spot where it catches. Let's see if I've got that. Okay, so I know that the wheel is not coming out. Right, I'm pulling on the wheel, it's not coming out, and it's not spinning freely. If I try to spin it, it engages the servo. So I know that it's attached, and seems tight to me. So I think we'll move on to the next step. All right, so we've got the landing gear on. Let's move to the rear elevators. These are two-piece elevators. The tops are the ones that have the branded decals. You can see Spectrum, which is the radio brand, and Safe, which is that radio technology. So Horizon Hobbies is really pushing this technology hard. That's what differentiates this from other models that have used the same fuselage. So in the box, you'll find two spars, a thicker, shorter one, and then a longer, thinner one. The longer, thinner one is what we use for the elevators. There's a receptacle in the side of the elevator. I push this spar in as far as it'll go. There's no screw and no glue, so it's all a friction fit. I'm going to insert this through a receptacle on the side of the plane here. Got to be careful not to bend the styrofoam, so I'm gripping right around the reinforced section of the tail rather than at the top of the tail. If I grabbed here, I could break the styrofoam off. So I'm holding it right down here. I'm going to push down the center of the elevator. Okay, it's all the way through, and now I'm going to attach the other side of the elevator. Make sure it goes all the way in, and now we're in. All right? The last step is to attach the wings. Here are the wings. They do have a servo inserted inside, which is neat. What this means is you do not need to attach any linkages when you build it. The only thing you need to attach is this servo lead, which attaches to a harness in the fuselage. Again, we have a spar. This is the thicker, shorter one. I'm going to insert it into the plastic piece here, the receptacle. Again, making sure to grip the wing right in the middle so I don't bend any parts of the thinner part of the wing. Goes all the way in. Make sure my servo wire is out of the way, and do the same thing on this side. I got to push it a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's where the screws go through. They just have to line up. There we go. Didn't have that lined up right in the middle there. All right, there's my wing. Now, as you can see, it's pretty easy to assemble, and this is what makes this plane, again, so great for people who don't have their dedicated flying fields where they can store their planes. I can take this apart quite quickly and put it in my car. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you a size comparison between this plane and a couple of other planes I have to show you just why it is really so versatile. Now, inside the plane, you're going to find a wire harness. So this is what you find inside. This was all pre-installed. Here's your 6-channel receiver. Only 4 channels are used on this plane. It does not have flaps. And here's your servo harness. This is a Y-splitter, so it's going to control the servos on both wings. Remember, each wing has its own dedicated servo to control the ailerons. All right, I'm going to drop this down. Obviously, I have to attach the servos. So let's tuck all those wires away, get that wing into place. All right, now I got to line up my wings so I can attach these screws. Let's carefully thread it through. Find the screw hole underneath. There we go. So that's one. Do make sure that you have your wing centered so you don't actually screw into the styrofoam, which is not what you want to do. You have to feel around a little bit to get this screw lined up. I'm just hand tightening it so I don't break my wing. Feels tight. And then this back one, I got to make sure, I think this one, yeah, that's tightening. I don't actually know what it's securing to. It's pretty soft. It doesn't feel like, I don't know what, they've got something down there as a receptacle for it, but it doesn't have a clear stop, which makes me a little bit nervous. I'd prefer if there were a clear, hard stop where you know the screw's all the way in. There isn't, and that's probably why you don't want to use a screwdriver on this, because certainly not a power screwdriver. Just use your hands. That looks pretty tight. Just checking out whether or not the wing is flush. I believe it is. And the plane is assembled. So that really didn't take too long. Now let's set up the radio and the battery. Now conveniently, the inside of this already has some Velcro attached, and they give you 1 strip of Velcro for your battery. I'm going to affix that now to the bottom of my battery. There's also a strap inside to secure it. But it never hurts to have a few different methods of securing a battery so it doesn't come flying out of your plane. To open the hatch, there's just a magnet right in the back here, so you just pop it open, lift it forward, and clear that front tab that goes in the front of the plane. Let me show you the inside of the plane. So here's what you have inside. You've got what I believe is going to be for the binding plug here to connect to my radio, and then here's my battery connector. You've got 2 servos mounted on what looks like kind of a wood frame or balsa frame maybe. There's also a servo there I can see peeking through. That's for the landing gear. And these 2 servos probably control the rudder and the elevator. They have kind of rods extending all the way down the inside the fuselage there. So let's get this bound up with my radio and connect it. Now this is the new smart connector. This is, I think, called an IC3. It's compatible with EC3. Those are both Horizon Hobbies designs. So I actually am going to be using an adapter to connect this. My Venom battery actually comes with an EC3 adapter, so it'll work with this plug here. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn on my DX6 radio. I actually already downloaded the profile for this plane, so it's really neat. This whole ecosystem of being with Spectrum means you can get the plane's profile from the website. So I just have to select it. Sorry, here we go. Got to switch my plane. to, I'm going to go to the Aeroscout. There it is. So I already have this loaded up. You just have to go, I think it's Spectrum RC, or you can find it from the Horizon Hobby website. Let's select that Aeroscout and then back. So it's going to restart and get ready to bind to my Aeroscout. I'm going to insert the bind plug. Comes with this bind plug. Conveniently it says bind plug on it, which is a good thing. Okay, I've inserted that. I'm going to attach my battery. I've got my EC3 adapter, which works with the IC3 power here. So on the radio, on the top of the radio, there's a bind button. What I'm going to do is shut it off. I've got it on the right profile now. I'm going to hold down the bind button as I turn the transmitter on. It says Aeroscout binding. Bind complete. It actually, this being the DX6, it does have voice commands. So it told me that the bind was complete. Let's take a look. So here's the plane. I've got my safety on, remember? Do I? Yes, I do. So those are my ailerons. It does mix in some, when you have it in safe mode, it mixes in some rudder as well as some elevators so that when you're turning, you don't lose a lot of altitude. So that's really nice for beginner. You also have just rudders. So that's the rudder on the back. And I've got my elevator. Elevator up, elevator down, okay, to change your altitude. Now I'm just going to also just demonstrate the propeller. I'm going to hold the plane for a minute, show you that the motor does indeed turn on. Woo, that's a lot of thrust. So that can move, very nice, okay. So in a later video, I'm actually going to show you this flying, but before then, let me turn my motor to disarm, make sure I don't accidentally engage it here because it's got a lot of power. I'm going to compare this plane to two other planes I have just to show you the size comparison and why I think this is actually such a great midway point. I'm going to start with the UMX Timber from E-flite. This is also Horizon Hobby brand. You can actually see they borrow some of the very same colors like the orange and black. Even though it's a different brand under the Horizon Hobbies umbrella, this is a HobbyZone and this is an E-flite. The colors are pretty similar. Now, let me just hold these up to you to show you the difference in size. Obviously quite a bit different, right? Also the weight is tremendously different. This is a UMX class, which means it's under, I think it's under 250 grams. I don't know the exact weight of this, but it's somewhat under 250 grams. It has about a 700 millimeter wingspan, whereas this is 1.1 meters. So the wingspan is actually what's most similar about these planes. The Aeroscout's maybe only a third bigger, right? But everything else about it makes it quite a bit bigger. That includes the motor and battery. The batteries for this are tiny, 280 mAh batteries, about the size of my thumb, or smaller actually. They provide about 6 to 7 minutes of runtime. I don't know what the runtime of this is yet, but you saw the battery. It's actually fairly large. It's a 2200 mAh battery, so about 8 times the capacity. And of course, the motor is a whole lot more powerful. You could see when I engaged that motor, it started blowing things around in here. This plane won't do that. So I do like this plane a lot because I can use it anywhere, but it's kind of limited in windy conditions. And sometimes it kind of feels more like a kite than anything else because it's so light. I do like that. It's very relaxing to fly. But sometimes it kind of feels like, you know, it's just along for the ride and the wind is doing most of the work. Now let me compare the Aeroscout to another plane I have. All right, folks, this is my E-flite Valiant. This is so big I really can't even get it all on camera. Let me put the Aeroscout in front of it. You can see the Valiant has much bigger wingspan. It's a little bit longer and it's quite a bit heavier. I believe the weight is something like about 50% heavier. All right, so it's a much bigger plane and the wings don't detach quite as easily, which means it's not nearly as portable. All right, you can kind of see I'm going to maybe place it on top here. It's actually quite a bit bigger and heavier. The fuselage even is much bigger. And yet it uses the same motor size and same battery size. And that's, again, another reason I really like the Aeroscout. Let me put down the Valiant for a minute here. They pack in a very powerful brushless motor, a 2200 mAh 3S LiPo battery, and yet it's a pretty light airframe and also very compact, and it's easy to assemble and disassemble, which means it's portable. So for all these reasons, I think this could be my new favorite plane. I haven't flown it yet, but I will soon. The other one, last thing I wanted to point out in case it wasn't obvious is that this is a pusher prop. Now, I don't yet know how that's going to affect performance. It might versus having a propeller in the front. But one thing's for sure is it makes it safer, both for you when you're handling the plane and also for the plane if you do have a crash, which you probably eventually will. You won't impact that propeller and snap it off in a crash landing. So for all these reasons, this seems like an ideal plane for a beginner who wants to, or someone who wants to step up from a UMX class of plane. And frankly, let me show you that UMX timber again. The reason I'm pushing on this so hard in terms of the value is the dollar difference between these two planes. UMX timber, $130. Okay, comes with a tiny little brushless motor. It weighs less than 250 grams, and it uses tiny batteries, goes about 5 minutes. This plane is $150. I think that speaks for itself. $20 price difference between these two planes, right? If you were shopping for a refrigerator or a car, and one was quite a bit larger with a bigger motor, higher capacity, higher payload, you'd pay more for it, right? Well, in the world of RC planes, it doesn't really work out that way. I don't know why that is, but you know, if you're going to spend between $130 and $150, you know, for $20 more, you get a lot more plane. So if you have the ability to fly this, if you have enough space for this, and because it can be dismantled so easily, it's actually pretty portable. You can kind of take it anywhere. This might be a good starter plane rather than going for UMX. This has been my favorite plane up until this point, but this could be my new favorite. So next time you're going to see this plane, you're going to see it up in the air. I'm going to show you it flying over at the park. I'm going to see how it works. So far, I really like it, but proof is in the flight, right? So until then, I'm Ari from the Tech Buyers Guru. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.